Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe.
President of the United States.
Thank you. I can now retire from politics after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet, wholesome way.
LeRoy Neiman's painting of Marilyn Monroe serenading President Kennedy on his 45th birthday freezes a moment in time. It captures an era of promise and sweetness before a time of war and bitterness. The painting brings together a collection of powerful people of the day who were part of the Kennedy era. Kennedy's Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, who would take the reins of government a year and a half later. Kennedy's friend, Robert Wagner, the three-term mayor of New York City. His brother Teddy, appointed to fill JFK's Senate seat. Adlai Stevenson, the two-time candidate for president, now Kennedy's ambassador to the UN. His brother Bobby, our youngest Attorney General, future Senator, and future political rival of LBJ. Also there was Irving Mitchell Felt, president of Madison Square Garden, entertainers and luminaries of the day, along with over 17,000 voters. The painting recalls the youthful John F. Kennedy, war hero, first Catholic in the White House, first matinee idol president. By the time of Neiman's painting, he had launched the Peace Corps, fought inflation and poverty, bit the bullet on civil rights, and staked out the moon. But at this moment, the president was giving all his attention to one of the most photographed women of her time. America was as fascinated by Marilyn's neuroses as by her measurements. She had already made it into the pantheon of Hollywood greats. Equally sought after by photographers was Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy. On the day of this party, she was in a horse show in Virginia, where she came in third.
I remember Kennedy from the debates with Nixon. The very first one was in Chicago, a few blocks from my studio. They debated a lot about Quemoy and Matsu, a couple of islands nobody heard of before or since. I watched the man, and I liked what I saw. Among other things, Kennedy was a master of style. He started the dry look in men's hair. When he threw away the greasy look, he also chucked a lot of political cliches. His oratory was lean, tough poetry. Now a lot of politicians are raising their chins and chopping the air.
Nixon's visual disadvantage canceled out Kennedy's Catholic disadvantage. Kennedy squeaked into office, and then we got to know him better. He challenged us to pursue a life of physical vigor. He urged us to celebrate excellence. He taught us the power of family loyalty. We watched him work and play. We saw him brood and rejoice. We watched him raise his children in the White House.
The Kennedys were so close in look. You'd start to draw one, you'd start with the eyes, and it could turn out to be any one of them. In every Irish bar I've been to, along with a four-leaf clover and a photo of Man o' War, there's a portrait of John F. Kennedy. During a lot of the Kennedy administration, I was in Europe, hanging out with the old masters. But one day, I'm walking just off the Champs-Élysées, daydreaming, girl watching, whatever. And suddenly, there he was, Jack Kennedy, leaving the Élysée Palace and getting into a limo, all alone, as all great men must do at some time. It stuck in my mind. Next thing I knew, it was all over.
For the next 10 years, we were plunged into upheaval. There would be more assassinations. Protest would become a way of life for many Americans. Later, hippies would call them pigs, but on that night, everyone called them New York's finest. The flag was proudly displayed. The band played for Bobby Darin, Ella Fitzgerald, Maria Callas, Peggy Lee, Harry Belafonte, and life was a piece of cake. And John F. Kennedy was the hope of the free world.
So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate.
Sometime later, a French journalist interviewed President Kennedy. His last question was whether he had any regrets. The president answered that he regretted every occasion when he could not stop to have a good time. After saying that, the president left for Dallas. The date was November 22nd, 1963.
But on this night, the president did have a good time. In fact, I think he had a hell of a good time. Happy birthday, Mr. President.